The Lord of the Rings trilogy set the gold standard for fantasy filmmaking, not just because of its storytelling, but because of how real it felt. The filmmakers only used CGI when absolutely necessary, relying on practical effects whenever they could. That's what gave Middle-earth its weight, its authenticity. So, when Amazon announced the Rings of Power, the big question was, could they capture that same balance between digital effects and real-world craftsmanship? Now, to really understand why expectations were so high, it's worth looking back at how the Lord of the Rings films handled their visuals. Peter Jackson and his team went all out with prosthetics, elaborate sets, and even massive miniature models of locations like Helm's Deep and Barad-dûr. They built entire villages on location to make Middle-earth feel as real as possible. Sure, CGI played a role. After all, it's not like they could hire a real cave troll, but they used it sparingly, always pushing the technology to make it blend seamlessly with practical effects. That's why, even 2 decades later, those movies still hold up visually. Unfortunately, Jackson's next attempt at bringing Tolkien's world to life, the Hobbit trilogy, didn't quite stick the landing. The overuse of CGI left many scenes feeling hollow, lacking the same weight and realism that made The Lord of the Rings so immersive. So when Amazon's The Rings of Power was announced, fans braced themselves for the worst. And with so many franchises these days leaning too heavily on CGI, fans worried this new take on Tolkien's world would turn into just another over-processed, artificial-looking mess. But when The Rings of Power premiered, the first season actually took a lot of people by surprise. Instead of relying too heavily on CGI, the team put real effort into grounding Middle-earth with practical effects wherever possible. Director of photography Alex Dizenhoff even told Newsweek that they focused on realism, building sets and using practical effects to make the world feel as tangible as possible. Dizenhoff, who worked on episodes 6 and 7, played a key role in crafting some of the season's most visually complex moments. These episodes didn't just bring multiple storylines together, they also gave audiences their first look at Mordor, pulling audiences into the reveal with stunning immersion. But just how far did they go to make the destruction feel real? Episode 6 left, everybody shook when Mount Doom erupted, turning the Southlands into a hellscape of fire, smoke, and destruction. And Episode 7? It picked up right where that chaos left off, following Galadriel and the other survivors as they stumbled back to camp, barely able to see through the thick cloud of volcanic ash hanging in the air. Everything had this eerie red glow. The characters looked like they had just crawled out of a nightmare, and the whole thing felt real. Because, well, it was. This wasn't some CGI-heavy sequence built on a green screen. It was carefully crafted, with cinematographer Alex Dizenhoff and his team pulling off something that took a ridiculous amount of planning. He called the start of Episode 7 one of the toughest things they had to do, but looking back, he was proud of how it all came together. The process started with a simple but daunting question. What does it actually look like inside a volcanic eruption? To figure that out, Dizenhoff dug into real-world disasters. He studied photos from the 2018 California wildfires, moments when the sky turned an unnatural shade of red and the air felt thick with smoke. He even had his own pictures from being close to a wildfire in Portland in 2020, images of skies that looked like something out of an apocalyptic painting, soaked in this surreal blend of red, orange, and yellow. With that vision locked in, he pitched it to the showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, and the director, Charlotte Brandstrom. Everybody was on board. The challenge now, making it all happen in a way that would hold up across multiple scenes. The solution was to build the ruined village inside a controlled space. They wrapped the entire set in massive muslin cloths, creating an enclosed environment that let them manipulate the lighting exactly the way they wanted. Then came the ash layer, coating everything in fine dust to drive home that sense of destruction. To nail the firestorm effect, Dizenhoff rigged up LED lights all around the set, programming them to hit just the right mix of colors. But it wasn't a simple set-it-and-forget-it situation. It took a ton of testing, tweaking, and experimenting to land on the perfect balance. Yellow highlights, a deep orange in the middle, and rich reds in the shadows. They had to make it look intense without overwhelming the shot, so the audience could feel the heat without getting visually exhausted. And the best part? What ended up on screen was almost exactly what the cameras captured in real time. The glow, the ruined buildings, the unsettling atmosphere, it was all done right there on set. The only major digital additions were the embers floating through the air and the occasional strong gusts of wind, which had to be added in post-production for safety reasons. But the job wasn't over when they left that enclosed set. As the episode unfolds, the characters move away from the destruction, and the visuals had to reflect that shift. Dizenhoff came up with a plan to gradually fade the intensity of the colors as they got further from the epicenter. Since they were now filming out in the unpredictable New Zealand landscape instead of a controlled studio, he used filters on the camera to tint the light just enough to keep that red-hued haze going. He even graded the footage live while they were shooting, making real-time adjustments to ensure everything stayed consistent with the look they had built on set. Of course, shooting outside came with its own set of problems. The New Zealand wind wasn't exactly cooperative, and the natural lighting kept shifting, making it harder to maintain the eerie firestorm vibe. That's where the visual effects team stepped in, helping to bring back some of that chaos and keep the atmosphere as thick and immersive as possible. But at its core, the color scheme and the way it evolved throughout the episode, that was all done with the camera itself, a mix of practical effects and cinematography that made the devastation feel real. And if there's one thing the Rings of Power does best, it's tapping into something familiar, sometimes without even meaning to. Now, Prime Video might be doing its own thing with J.R.R. Tolkien's books, but let's be real. When you watch The Rings of Power, you can feel the echoes of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. It's like stepping back into a familiar world, even with a fresh take. Take episode 7, for example. There's this moment where Galadriel and Theo are hiding from orcs under a tree, and if you've seen The Fellowship of the Ring, you already know where this is going. It instantly brings back that intense scene where Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin are crouched under a log, holding their breath as a Nazgul lurks just inches away. It's the kind of visual parallel that makes longtime fans sit up and go, wait a minute. But here's the thing. According to cinematographer Aaron Morton and production designer Ramsey Avery, that similarity wasn't even intentional. It was just in the script that Galadriel and Theo would hide under a log, and everything flowed from there. Still, for someone like cinematographer Alex Dizenhoff, who grew up loving Jackson's trilogy, those influences are probably baked in on some level. Dizenhoff remembers exactly when his love for filmmaking was sealed. He was in high school when Return of the King hit theaters, and that was it. He knew he had to make movies for a living. So when the call came to work on The Rings of Power, it wasn't just another gig. It was a chance to step into Middle-earth, a world he'd fallen in love with years ago. And for him and so many others on the crew, this wasn't about just making another show. It was about capturing that feeling Jackson's films gave people, the awe, the magic, the sense of being transported to another world. And yeah, people are going to have their opinions. Some love it, some don't. That's just how it goes. But Dizenhoff and the team weren't worried about all that when they were making the show. They were just fans, pouring their hearts into bringing Middle-earth back to life, trying to recapture the magic that made the movies so special. This wasn't just some corporate cash grab for Amazon. Behind the scenes, it was pure passion. But while Dizenhoff and his team were focused on creating their vision of Middle-earth, fans have been busy trying to unravel its biggest mystery. Fans have been deep in theory mode, trying to crack the mystery of who's who in the Rings of Power. Halbrand, the Stranger, Adar. Everybody's got a guess. But the biggest question? Where is Sauron hiding? That's the one keeping people up at night. Cinematographer Alex Dizenhoff knows exactly how wild these theories have gotten. And honestly, he loves it. The show has been dropping little visual hints here and there, just enough to get fans thinking, but some of the stuff people come up with, completely unexpected. Dizenhoff finds it hilarious when fans latch onto a random detail and turn it into a whole conspiracy. Sometimes they're way off, other times they're spot on. But either way, he thinks it's amazing to see people so invested, picking apart every frame, looking for hidden clues. Of course, he can't spill the beans on which theories are totally wrong. That'd ruin the fun. But what he can say is that being part of the team bringing these big moments to life is an experience like no other. For Tolkien fans, Middle-earth isn't just a story, It's something they've imagined in their heads for years. And getting the chance to actually create something like Mordor for the first time on screen, that's next level. Dissenhoff remembers the exact moment it hit him. He knew he'd be working on 2 episodes, but the scripts were kept under wraps until he arrived. Then, when he finally sat down to read them, boom, that was it. This wasn't just another job, it was a dream come true. He wasn't just filming scenes, he was helping bring Middle-earth to life, giving fans their first real glimpse of a world they'd only imagined. And that's the kind of moment that makes all the hard work worth it. Now, with all these hidden details, visual nods, and wild fan theories flying around, The Rings of Power has given us a lot to chew on. Whether you think they absolutely nailed it or totally missed the mark, one thing's for sure: Middle-earth still knows how to pull us in. And if this is just the beginning, who knows what twists are coming next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And hey, while you're at it, don't forget to like the video and hit that subscribe button for more content like this.